I have a lot to get off my mind. Um, I don't even know where to start, man. I'm disappointed. Which is crazy. I never thought a sport would actually hurt my feelings, but here we are. Um, I think this is truly messed up. Obviously, my title is a little bit more animated than my current, reaction. Like I'm a little bit calmer than my title, um, but that's basically how I feel, man. Like how how in the lightweight division, like how it's one of the it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen because it doesn't make sense. Like how is that even possible? You know, it makes you feel like it's almost like watching a fight, seeing someone win, and then after that person wins, the judges rob them. I think this is the same feeling I'm getting at this particular point in time. It's like I watched a fight, an incredibly one-sided fight, all right, and then somehow the judges gave it to the other person. That's how I feel. Tweezy, it's insane. Like I honestly cannot believe that this is the situation right now. I'm so disappointed in the UFC. I mean, I love the UFC, but when it comes to rankings, I feel like they just let it happen the way they want it to happen. And I don't think it's only the UFC. Let me not just blame the UFC because actually the UFC has put um, they don't want Max to expose 150, 155. I think there are politics within the ranking, but I'll get to that a little bit later in the stream. Um, but as I was saying, I don't want to put too much blame on the UFC because I was looking at the world rankings, and let me read you the top 15, right? The top 15 rankings. Um, yeah, let me obviously number one, the best lightweight in the world. At number two, we have Charles the Bronx Oliveira. At number three, we have Arman Sarukian. Number four, Justin Gaethje, which is crazy. Number five, Matheus Gamrot. Number six, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Number seven, Benil Dariush. Number eight, Rafael Fiziev. Number nine, Renato Moicano. Number 10, Jalen Turner. Number 11, Iron Michael Chandler. Number 12, Benoit Saint Dennis. Number 13, Dan Hooker. Number 14, Bobby Green. Number 15, Max Holloway. These are the world rankings, which is even crazier to me because in my head I was like, no way, I have to check the world rankings because the world rankings might not have like any politics because in the UFC I thought in my head I was like maybe the UFC is trying to say well he's going to go down so why should we rank him higher because there are people that maybe we're trying to push. That's the initial thought that I had when I saw the rankings. But after I checked the world rankings, I was like, well, how the hell do rankings even work then? Because how do you go from beating the number two ranked fighter in the world, and then you are ranked below him, and not just below him, but below a couple of other fighters who have lost their previous fights. You know, Rafael Fiziev lost his previous fight. Let me check these fighters who lost their previous fights. Um, Benil Dariush lost his previous fight. Fiziev lost his previous fight. Um, Dustin Poirier, okay, he has one win, so I guess he somehow managed. Justin Gaethje lost his previous fight. So how is it logically possible for someone to be so low in the rankings after beating someone who was ranked number two? Like, how is that even possible? Rankings are assessed by random names. I'm not sure if the UFC gets to approve it. I don't know. You don't think the UFC has anything to do with the rankings? I feel like maybe I could agree to that because I remember when they were trying to push Hamza Chimaev after he beat Kamaru Usman, and then Hamza Chimaev I think was ranked like number nine, and it seems like the UFC was upset with that. Apparently, I think it's a rumor. It wasn't like something that Dana White publicly said. So maybe I'm inclined to agree with that idea of maybe the UFC does not necessarily have an influence because whenever it came to the fighters they wanted to win, or rather the fighters they wanted to promote, um, the rankings did not go according to how they wanted them to go, which then makes me feel like these rankings do not necessarily rank talent. They just rank, I don't know, I honestly don't know what they rank at this point. It's the same thing as when Makhachev beat Alexander Volkanovski and was still ranked above him. For me, that was crazy. Irrespective of how controversial you feel like the first fight was, it doesn't make sense for someone who just lost to be still classified as the pound for pound best in the world, right? So if ever someone just beat the number two ranked fighter, and you still put him below that the person that he actually beat, because Justin Gage is still like a lot of ranks, not maybe a lot is an exaggeration, but he's still significantly higher on the rankings than Max Holloway, which doesn't really make any sense in my opinion. Maybe I think maybe it's, I don't know, man, because I wanted to blame the UFC, but I can't blame the UFC if the world rankings are putting Max Holloway at number 15. The UFC have put him at number 9. Um, so the world rankings say 15. So at this point, I can't blame the UFC then. Like, it doesn't seem like the UFC has anything to do with this because they at least put him a little bit higher than the world rankings. Maybe I need to research how rankings work because I'm confused. In my head, I thought if you beat the champion, you become the champion. If you beat the number one, you become number one. So it doesn't seem that way. I think it happened. It happens with everyone. Hamza Chimaev beat Gilbert Burns when he was ranked, I think, number two. Hamza Chimaev went on to be number three. Gilbert Burns went on to be behind Hamza Chimaev. I think Taito Ivasa was ranked, I don't know, number 11 or something like that. He was in the bottom 15 of the heavyweight division when he beat Derek Lewis. After beating Derek Lewis, he took Derek Lewis's ranking in the top five. That's how Taito Ivasa actually got into the top five. After beating Derek Lewis, he took Derek Lewis's ranking in the top five, and then Derek Lewis was ranked below him. So, brother, you think I have the best wrestling in the UFC? Um, Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed, I don't know if it's really you, Magomed, man. I don't believe it's really you. If it's really you, send me an email, and then we will talk about it live on the what do you call it, on the stream. Send me an email if it's really you. Like, go to the about section of the channel, and then you'll find the email, and then send me an email. We'll organize an interview, and then I'll answer that question honestly. If it's really you. If not, then I mean, there's no point in me actually responding to that. But yeah, apart from everything that has happened, um, I just think that it might actually even work out irrespective of what do you call it? Irrespective of how they've ranked him in the UFC and in the world, which is still insane in my head. Or maybe it's because if you're not fighting in a specific division, even if you beat the number one or rather a highly ranked fighter, it won't make any difference. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. I'm hoping, or rather, I'm hoping that's the case because at this point it's difficult for me to accept where they have ranked Max Holloway. I have to do a little bit more research, and maybe I'll come back to you guys with that research. But here's what I think will happen, right? Obviously, I did my sort of like early predictions between Max Holloway and Ilya Tuporia, but between Islam Makhachev and Ilya Tuporia, I think they are both equally difficult to fight. But if I had to choose, Alex will catch you, brother. That Magomed. Yeah, I don't know if it's really Magomed Ankalaev. I'm also confused. If it's him, I hope he actually sends me an email and we can actually chat. Um, I'm, I'm looking forward to that if that actually happens. But nonetheless, I think what could happen is between Ilya Tuporia and Islam Makhachev, the more difficult fighter to beat, in my opinion, is going to be Islam Makhachev. The problem here is that it gets a little bit trickier when you consider the fact that Max Holloway's frame, in my opinion, is for 155 and potentially welterweight. Featherweight, I feel like he's depleting himself, and that's why he doesn't have a lot of knockout power. So even though I think Ilya Tuporia is a little bit of a better fight for Max Holloway than Islam Makhachev, I think he will be a little bit more depleted at 145, even though that's where he has been performing for the majority of his career. I think he will be a little bit more depleted at 145. And because of that, he will most likely be able to get knocked out. I don't know. Or submitted. I think Ilya Tuporia is going to grab Max Holloway. But in the event that Max Holloway somehow manages to beat Ilya Tuporia, I think what's going to happen is I don't think he's going to be required to defend that belt. After he gets the belt from Ilya Tuporia, I think he's going to have the opportunity to actually move up and actually face Islam Makhachev for champion status, which I feel Max would actually deserve because, irrespective of how crazy, uh, irrespective of how crazy, why are you laughing, Twizy? Like, what did I say? What don't you agree with? Talk to me. So, irrespective of where they ranked him, I think if ever he wins the 145 belt, he has the right to demand a shot at Islam Makhachev immediately without even defending the belt because he is the number one contender. Even though they've ranked him number 9 in the lightweight division, he's the number one contender in that division, in my opinion. So if he manages to somehow get the 145 belt, I think he more than deserves to actually what do you call it, be ranked, or rather to get the shot against Islam Makhachev. Where did Uncle Live go? Was it really him? If it was really Uncle Live, I would actually like to talk to him. Let me check. Let me check if it was really him. And then maybe I'm going to end the stream. I'm just trying to check who this guy is and if he truly is Magomed Ankalaev. And if it is, maybe we can work on something and maybe organize, put user and a timeout ad. No. Kibatlafela to see his. Okay, I'm going to end the stream and try to check if this was really Magomed Ankalaev. But yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for the support. The channel is growing because of all of you. I'm going to be doing an interview today with the former EFC middleweight